Evaluation of urban design. Group 5 has selected to evaluate the Darling Harbour precinct using the 10 predetermined new urbanism principles. Darling Harbour is a large recreational and pedestrian precinct adjacent the centre of Sydney. Darling Harbour can be divided into 6 identifiable sub-precincts shown on the map on the right. These include Section A, showing new development of mixed use, predominantly residential. Section B defines the entertainment, parks, recreational and office spaces. Section C shows predominantly retail. Section D shows tourism and entertainment. Section E shows residential, commercial and office space, and entertainment and recreational facilities. Section F shows predominantly tourism facilities. The physical boundary of the precinct runs adjacent to Barangaroo precinct across the northern edge. The southern boundary of the precinct lies on the light rail line, and as you can see from the image, the western and eastern boundaries follow the back of the lots to improve the continuity of the streetscape and identify connections to the precinct. This helps to prevent the creation of two different environments within the same streetscape. We've also decided to include Chinatown and other parts of street zones to enhance connections between Darling Harbour and surrounding precincts. Darling Harbour acts as one of the major focal points of Sydney CBD. The precinct extends northwards from Chinatown along the boundaries of Cockle Bay through to Darling Harbour Wharf, positioned on the eastern side of the bay, and across to Pyrmont Wharf, positioned on the west. As you can see outlined in the red arrows, Darling Drive, Hay Street and Harbour Street all act as boundaries around the precinct. These roads are ultimately isolating Darling Harbour from the other precincts that surround it. A strong local identity and sense of place has been created through landmarks visible from within the precinct, such as the Sydney Opera House. Other features such as the Chinese Garden of Friendship also work to influence the culture and identity of the precinct. However, development within this precinct makes little reference to both the Indigenous and European heritage of the area. The incorporation of this history into the site would further contribute to the identity of the precinct. Principles of urban design. The new urbanism principles are an overview of the complete community. It can cover different types of buildings and can be applied to analyze an entire precinct. The new urbanism principles include walkability and connectivity that draw attention to the transportation convenience for the city or precinct. It advocates mixed-use diversity and considers the quality of architecture in urban design. Furthermore, these principles underline the traditional neighbourhood structure and paid attention to the increased density. The principles also consider green transportation, sustainability, and quality of life. Walkability and connectivity is the residential accessibility and convenience to a near destination. Darling Harbour's internal walkability and connectivity is good. It promotes the flow of pedestrian movement throughout by strategically locating or positioning sculptures and water features. It does, however, have to be mentioned that a poor connection with surrounding precincts, such as Central Station or Town Hall, is currently made. Further to the disconnect between the surrounding precincts and transport hubs is the disconnect between pedestrian interaction with the physical water presence that is Darling Harbour. Mixed use and diversity. Darling Harbour includes different kinds and types of buildings with different functions and uses, which ultimately creates an outstanding diverse range. The Harbourside Shopping Centre contains restaurants. There are various shops located throughout the precinct. There are entertainment places. There are bars and restaurants along the waterfront frontage areas. And in addition, there is a movie theatre and national museum. What's more, there's also an aquarium, a zoo, and wax museum. Darling Harbour not only includes the daily requirement for residents, but it also can attract tourism by its variety of landscapes and its mixed diversity. It also allows for different age gaps of people, culture, and income levels. Mixed housing. Currently, the Darling Harbour precinct is mainly comprised of commercial, entertainment and retail uses. As discussed, the precinct is largely centred around tourism and there is little housing currently available. The new development in Darling Harbour will include residential areas in the southern end of the precinct. Within this area, there will be approximately 1,400 apartments for around 2,000 people. A portion of this housing will also be made available for student housing. Once this development has been completed, all housing in the precinct will be high-rise apartments, and there will be little diversity in residences. It is unclear whether the proportion of the development will be allocated for affordable housing. Quality architecture and design. The Darling Harbour precinct provides an aesthetically pleasing environment, with the harbour itself being the main focal point. Public spaces and nearby retail spaces utilise natural light and greenery to create welcome areas for social interaction. The many public spaces in the precinct are surrounded by buildings and various levels, creating visual interest on human scale. Designating paths and strategically placed architectural features, such as open water channels pictured above, allow pedestrians to navigate paths and promote the flow of movement around the precinct without obstruction. Traditional neighbourhood structure. The Darling Harbour precinct appears to follow the traditional neighbourhood structure. Within the precinct, there is a large focus point on public open space which uses the aesthetics and natural features of the open space. Much of this is surrounding the harbour itself, which functions as a centre as other features in the precinct are designed around it. The precinct has well-defined edges, however density increases on the edges of the precinct with noticeably higher buildings. Connectivity to nearby precincts is poor, and there is a clear transition to the surrounding areas. The connectivity of Darling Harbour with surrounding precincts has been an ongoing challenge throughout the continuous development of this area. Increased density. The area that is Darling Harbour currently has a variety of property uses and densities. For example, the site has a number of mid-rise commercial towers positioned along Harbour Street. The National Maritime Museum is positioned along the water frontage, and the renowned Chinese gardens are located with the open space of the Central Park. There is the focal point of Sydney's entertainment sector, the IMAX Theatre, is located directly under the Western Distributor Freeway. That said, the current development of the wider precinct will again increase the building density and add further property variety to the area. For example, the current plans for the precinct are to incorporate a convention/exhibition facility, a new hotel in the northern end of Darling Harbour, which will include apartments, student accommodation, shops, a number of cafes, as well as well-known restaurants, including a new city square. Green transportation. Darling Harbour is currently somewhat disconnected from external green transportation links into the centre of its precinct. The diversity of green transport modes that are currently engaged with the precinct include ferries, both public and private, the ability to walk from surrounding train networks, and cycleways leading from surrounding areas intersecting the precinct. There is a metro light rail service located along the southern fringe of the precinct, along Hay Street. Buses can be boarded on both Harbour Street and Darling Harbour Drive. Pedestrian thoroughfares linking surrounding streetscapes are not currently promoting a pedestrian-friendly design, as limited traffic controls such as crossings, speed humps, and even the possibility for a shared zone area are impacting the pedestrians' travel path into and out of the precinct. This can be best seen as pedestrians are crossing along the southern ends of Harbour Street and Hay Street, accessing the areas of the Qantas Credit Union Arena. That said, there are a number of pedestrian linkages and cycleways located around other areas of the precinct. Although cycling within and around the development areas is not advised, as temporary construction hoardings are displayed asking cyclists to dismount, it can be seen that cycleway delineation could be improved throughout the other sections of the precinct. For example, wayfinding signage links from Pyrmont Bridge back into and around the water frontage, as no clear delineation of routes are currently being displayed. Tramline networks are situated in areas surrounding the precinct. In regards to a metropolitan scale, these train stations service the city of Sydney effectively. However, no train line intersects the current precinct landscape. The closest stations to the precinct are Central Station and Town Hall Station, which are the main distribution service centres across Sydney and the Greater New South Wales region. Both are situated at approximately 10 to 20 minutes walking distance from the centre of the precinct. Sustainability. Sustainability is best broken down into three separate categories: environmental, economical, and social. Sustainability in design is evident across the Darling Harbour open space. This is best identified through observing the enhanced pedestrian thoroughfares across the precinct that are linking the current building and infrastructure together. The site's building structures and land layout currently discourage the use of cars, as limited internal roads are available and parking spaces are sparse. All current sites and buildings planned for erection, such as the low, mid and high-rise developments, are all taking on sustainable initiatives, such as water reuse and solar power facilities. The Darling Harbour Live development works are being created using sustainable methods. For example, the International Convention Centre will be one of Australia's largest solar arrays within the business district. Quality of life. Only after assessing all of the above principles can we begin to answer the viability of this precinct's quality of life. As with all developments, there's always room for improvement. Darling Harbour currently promotes an open space network. The walkability between the buildings soon to be developed and constructed, relating with the current site and landscape, will improve the overall quality of life for the area. Persons living and working within this space are considered to have an effective access to new cafes, a variety of entertainment facilities, the water frontage, and green open spaces are all within close proximity to one another. The Darling Harbour precinct offers an enlightened quality of life, catering for almost everyone. Persons living and working within the Darling Harbour precinct are currently closely located to some of Sydney's most renowned restaurants, have direct access to utilise some of the best tourism and entertainment facilities in Australia, for example, the IMAX Theatre, the National Maritime Museum, or even the soon-to-be-finished International Convention Centre. The site is situated a stone's throw from the central business district and with only a short walk to major transport hubs like Town Hall Station and Central Station. So, what was done well? Overall, the Darling Harbour precinct creates a feeling of open space integrated with nature. The waterfront acts as a focal point for the majority of the Darling Harbour precinct, and this is one of its strengths. Tourism is prominent and successful focal points of the precinct with a variety of public spaces and retail areas such as restaurants and cafes, outdoor and recreation areas with well-designed parks and play areas frequently used by the public is also another one of its strengths. Major landmarks are well defined in the precinct, improving the wayfinding within Darling Harbour. There is a good transition between sub-precincts of Darling Harbour, including the Chinese Gardens, the entertainment area, Cockle Bay Wharf, and IMAX Theatre. This allows for a good sense of flow and pedestrian movement throughout. So, what can be improved? Connectivity to parts of the city from Darling Harbour precinct needs improvement. At this stage, there is poor pedestrian activity and walkability to and from the Darling Harbour precinct. There are limited entrances to the harbour, limiting users' friendliness and walkability to the precinct. For instance, access from the old convention centre requires entry through a car park. The Darley Park entry is via 3 levels of steps, and the Haymark entry requires crossing traffic and tram tracks. The transition to other precincts, such as Chinatown, need to be addressed, in addition to the links into Pyrmont and into the CBD. Although the upcoming development will address some of these issues, the regeneration of the harbour requires a greater mix of residential and retail areas. In addition, the relocation of the Western Distributor across and the Cross-City Tunnel away from the precinct or to create an underground tunnel would also improve the urban design of the precinct. Better integration with the water body would improve the surrounding environment, allowing a moving pedestrian to directly contact or come into contact with the water itself would improve the social sustainability of the area. In conclusion, although the Darling Harbour precinct is currently faced with a number of constraints, such as the direct disconnect with the water body and the unavailability of connection with the surrounding infrastructure and areas, it does, however, achieve a lot of positive outcomes. It stands out from other more traditional precincts within the Sydney City area, such as Martin Place and the Rocks. Darling Harbour uses its natural topography and location to its advantage to promote a place where not only travellers want to visit, people want to stay, work, and live.